Hey guys, how's things? Today I'm going to be making a video on this dreadful article I've had a read through about Pokemon Go. And there's a lot of articles like this one. This isn't the only one. But let's take a watch through and just see how bad it is, okay? Because it's pretty bad. This is like my fucking 5th time to try and make this video, and it's gone bad. Things have just happened. It's a lot harder to make videos than you might think.
Within the first few days of Pokemon Go's July 2016 launch, the app has already been downloaded an estimated 7.5 million times in the United States alone, and by the time you're watching this, that number has skyrocketed. Nintendo stock soared as the game outperformed all expectations. People around the world have gone crazy for the augmented reality installment in the long-running series, which allows users to catch Pokemon, battle at gyms, and collect items in the world around them. But Pokemon Go isn't all fun and games. Some players have found injuries, criminals, and even death on their adventures. Gotta catch 'em all. For Android users, be wary when downloading Pokemon Go from any source other than the Google Play Store. The Android operating system allows users, particularly those who have rooted devices, to download program files from outside of the official App Store and install them on their phones. For Pokemon fans living in countries that can't download the app officially yet, these files are the only way for them to get early access to the game. Additionally, some of these files are targeted at players who want to game the system. These cheat versions of the app supposedly allow them to spoof their GPS location in order to visit gyms and catch Pokemon without leaving their couches. The bad news? Enterprising hackers have taken advantage of the demand for these files, releasing versions of Pokemon Go packed with viruses that take control of the user's phone. Home invasion.
Wow, that took them like a minute to explain a simple thing. Okay, so the first thing is there's people making viruses on Pokemon Go, and people are installing the viruses and they're installing corrupted versions of the game. Blah, 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 blah. This is news as old as a concrete block. As long as there's being software out in the world, there have been people who just take advantage of it. You know, the amount, I could write you a list long as a fucking house, I don't know, of just how many games and programs and everything else that's ever been made that contains viruses or has had viruses on them. I'm sure whatever you're going to get from Pokemon Go isn't as serious as anything that you could get in a much darker place on the internet. Granted, yeah, viruses are pretty nasty, and getting them on your phone is pretty hard to do to begin with. I mean, in a lot of the cases, phones are pretty well protected from viruses and hackers. Like, just generally. And you know what? It's not even a case of the virus. It's just a case of the person, you know, actually paying attention to what they're installing on their phone. You know, a bit of common sense, like. People are going to use exploits and cheat ways to get around the game, sure. But at the same time, you know, use your common sense when it comes to installing things and don't just fucking install whatever. It's not really Pokemon Go's fault. It's just the way the world works, okay? It's always been like that, and it's always going to continue being like that. People's always going to have an upper hand in the situation. That's how capitalism works. Not nice, it's not a fair system, but by God, it's a profitable system.
Pokemon Go developers Niantic are also responsible for another augmented reality game, Ingress. In that app, users are encouraged to visit, claim, and add local points of interest for their team like a global game of Capture the Flag. These points of interest were reused by Niantic when developing the map used by Pokemon Go. Unfortunately, this has led to some mishaps and confusion for players trying to visit certain gyms and Pokestops. In Australia, one local police station took to social media to ask players to please stop wandering into their station in search of Pikachu. Massachusetts...
That face. I love pausing at that face every time. Yeah, this isn't even the first time I've made the video because things have just gone awful. And that face, it makes the video. It really does. Okay, so you're a police station and you're having problems with loiterers, I guess. I don't understand how a fully functional police station is so downhearted and troubled by a couple of people standing outside the station or standing inside the station. Because by the sound of things, they were saying people are coming into the station trying to catch Pokemon, which, honestly, I don't know if people are actually doing that, because it doesn't really seem like people would push their way just to go into the police station for no reason. Most people have the stigmatism, and generally for me, what I think is that most people try to avoid going to the police station or the guard station unless they have to. So this is just people standing outside the spot. I don't know what the laws are in Australia, but I know in America, at least, it's kind of illegal to loiter in certain areas, and I'd like to think a police station might have been one of them. So, why on earth don't you just threaten to arrest these people, or just try and get rid of them completely? I don't know why you're getting upset. You're cops. Do your fucking job. Stop whining about a couple of Pokemon trainers. You're acting like they're all over you, like there's like 50 million of them just fucking outside the shop, outside the station every single day. You're cops. Grow some fucking balls.
Resident Boone Sheridan has it even worse. He bought an old church in 2015 and converted it into a home. The church was previously an ingress portal and is now a gym in Pokemon Go. Sheridan reported that he's lost count of the number of players who have shown up at his residence at all hours in the day and night. Sheridan has made the best of the situation, venturing outside to meet some of the visitors. The United States Holocaust...
Who buys a church and converts it into a house? This is, okay, the next one is even worse. It's about a Holocaust museum, as you can see there. But yeah, who buys a church and converts it into a house? I don't understand. I know there's a lot of churches in America, but it seems like such an odd thing to do. Like, oh, there's a church. Man, I'd love to make that into a house. I suppose, churches are kind of big, so they're designed to store hundreds of people every single Sunday, so I imagine it'd be a big enough house. But still, I'm not sure I can think of any person who would look at a church and go, yeah, I want that to be my house. I'm a fucking church house guy. Definitely not a place for an atheist. Unless you're doing it ironically and you convert it into like demon infestation house with like paintings of demons outside. Of course, that would just be to piss off the Christians. Anyhow, I don't know what he can really do about that situation. Put up a no trespassing sign might be to a bit of an extreme extent, but I guess posting it on Twitter like he did is the most you can do, and finding it on this fucking page, this Looper website or something. You could take advantage of the situation, which I think he said he did, which is, you get to meet more people. And go out and be sociable. You got that face. Yeah. I can do it too. Okay, let's get on to the next one, the Holocaust one. As a matter of fact, I have an idea exactly what this one is about. The Holocaust one is basically... people found out you could catch Weezing at a Holocaust museum. Weezing, which is a poison-type Pokemon that spews gas everywhere, at a Nazi Holocaust museum. It's not Pokemon Go's fault. It's not even Niantic's fault. It's just coincidence more so than anything, and they're getting really upset by it. And they want to get rid of the gym or the Pokestop because of it, which, fair enough. You just give them a call up and see if they can remove it. But again, it's not initially the Pokemon Go's fault. It's just the programming that was used that made it a hotspot for the museum, to get people to go out and go to the museum, And they've been bringing people to the museum. I don't know what they're getting upset about, except for the fact that it's kind of, touchy.
Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C. has taken a different stance on dedicated Pokemon hunters. While it probably should go without saying, the museum recently issued a statement after an influx of misguided visitors saying, quote, "We feel playing Pokemon Go in a memorial dedicated to the victims of Nazism is inappropriate. We encourage visitors to use their phones to share and engage with museum content while here. Technology can be an important learning tool, but this game falls outside of our educational and memorial mission. We are looking into how the museum can be removed from it." Don't be tentacruel. Enterprising criminals in O'Fallon, Missouri have used the allure of Pokemon Go to draw unsuspecting players into traps. These criminals placed lure modules on Pokestops in remote locations and waited for adventurers to come running. The modules increase the chance of Pokemon appearing nearby, which in turn attracts more trainers to the location to catch them. After an unlucky player showed up, the thieves relieved them of their belongings at gunpoint.
Okay, so this is just like the hacker thing all over again, except now these guys are being a little bit less subtle about it. They're just pretty much going up at gunpoint and taking your phones. Which, if that's happening in your area where you live, chances are you don't even need Pokemon Go open for people just to want to go up and steal your phone. I mean, if people are so comfortable seeing a guy playing fucking Pokemon Go and say, oh, he's playing Pokemon Go, I better steal his phone, I'm pretty sure they would just be as comfortable holding you at gunpoint regardless of the fact and robbing you, because you're probably living in a pretty shitty area. I don't know exactly anything about where that was happening, somewhere in America. I forgot the name, but yeah, maybe you guys need to be a teensy bit more careful where you're going and pay attention to exactly who's around you, because if there's a shady guy standing on the opposite, like near where you are, and he's clearly looking like he's ready to rough up a folk, get the fuck out of Dodge and don't stand around. You're just asking to get robbed. You know, again, it's all down to common sense more than anything. It's kind of inconvenient to lose your phone, but remember, this page is basically saying, wait, it's ruining lives. I mean, so far, all of these things have been minor inconveniences at the most. The worst so far on the list, and I think the worst in the entire list, is this case of people losing their phones. We'll continue on anyways, we're halfway through the video.
You fools, this wouldn't have happened if you'd handed over your Pokemon nicely. But now it's too late for that, so I'm going to take those Pokemon and destroy you.
There were 11 such incidents in the O'Fallon and St. Louis area over the span of a few days. Eventually, the criminals were captured following another stick-up, and they were charged with first-degree armed robbery and grand theft Squirtle. That's definitely not a water type. In rural Wyoming, 19-year-old Pokemon Go trainer Shayla Wiggins set out to catch some rare Pokemon near the Big Wind River.
I woke up this morning and I wanted to go get a water Pokemon, so I just got up and went for my little walk, to go.
Who specifically wants to go out and catch water Pokemon? I mean, for me, when I play the game, I just kind of want to catch every type of Pokemon. You know, I'm not really going out of my way to specifically catch water type Pokemon. I mean, I can, because I live by the coast, so I can go down to the Atlantic Ocean or whatever there and fucking go out and look for water type Pokemon. But normally, I just want to catch everything. I don't really care that much of the type. But let's not judge her on her water Pokemon skills. Let's find out what she found on her little walk.
Catch Pokemon.
When Wiggins realized she was standing just a few steps away from a corpse, she called the police. No word on whether or not Wiggins ever found that water-type Pokemon.
Yeah, she found a corpse. A corpse in which she only found because she was playing Pokemon Go. So, if you're playing Pokemon Go and you find a corpse, it's Pokemon Go and it's a bad thing. If you bring your dog for a walk, for instance, and your dog finds a corpse, then your dog is a hero and he gets, I don't know, like maybe an award from the town or whatever. And he gets a good boy and a pat on the head. I don't get it. The Pokemon Go, the game, coincidentally helped solve a mystery of the missing man and found the dead body, but apparently it's a bad thing. Now, if it was a case the guy died because he was playing Pokemon Go and he fell off a cliff, you'd have a point. But this isn't a point. This is clutching at straws here. This is nothing. It's a good thing, in my opinion, that they managed to find the guy, even if he was dead, than having him rot away there in a ditch. I don't know how this is ruining lives. In a way, it's kind of saved a family from mourning. They've actually found out what happened to the dead body. What happened to the person, rather, not the dead body. He's dead now, but he was a person. Anyways, let's continue on.
Prepare for trouble. Niantic may have foreseen some of the issues related to would-be Pokemon trainers with their faces buried in their phones, especially after multiple tragic deaths associated with Ingress. When you start up a game, a warning cautions trainers to stay aware of their surroundings. But there have still been reports of players who were just a little too focused on catching that Flareon and ended up with various injuries to show for it. Lindsay Plunkett, a 23-year-old waitress in Asheville, North Carolina, tripped over a cinder block while playing the game and earned a colorful
Where the fuck was she walking where she tripped over a cinder block? Was she in the middle of a construction site? I don't know where the hell you would go for a walk and you'd find a cinder block and trip over it. I live in a rural area, and anytime I go into town, I can assure you, there is no cinder blocks. And there's also no cinder blocks out in the fucking forest or anything like that. Where the hell was she walking to hit a cinder block? And yeah, okay, this video that I'm watching here is a few days out of date, because they have released, it's either today or yesterday, even more. On top of that one they were talking about, they've released even more messages saying, you know, when you're playing, please don't trespass. When you're playing, watch where you're walking. It's kind of sad, in my faith in humanity, that we need to be told to look up from our phones every once in a while to see where we're going. You know? That we're so engrossed in just going, oh fuck, I tripped over a fence, or I hit a pole. I don't understand how people are so incompetent they can't just look around themselves every once in a while. It's not that hard. This is more of the idiots will survive and our overcoming of Darwin's theory basically, that, you know, the weak will survive, the weak will die and the strong will survive kind of thing. It's not a nice way of looking at it, but we've over-accomplished it anyway, so we don't need to worry about it. All we need to worry about is people tripping over cinder blocks.
Bruise on her right shin. One Reddit user claimed that their Pokemon Go adventure ended up with a trip to the local emergency room.
Oh no! Staryu looks like it's in real pain! It doesn't even have a face! How can you tell?
And this...
I don't get it. This one is talking about a guy falling into a ditch. I don't get that joke. It's stupid.
This is just a few days in. How long until the Poke death toll spikes?
Yep, slippery slope argument right there. Now, granted, I know this guy from the description of what he basically said. He got pretty badly beat up because he fell into the ditch. But this is going back to my previous point I was saying there a minute ago. Look where you're going, okay? Otherwise, you're just asking for trouble. It just, like, use your common sense. Like, he must have been in kind of a rough enough spot if there was a ditch nearby, because generally a ditch is about 1 meter, 2 meters deep, roughly. 1 meter more commonly. So if there's a meter ditch right beside you and you don't happen to look up to see it, and you're in an area where you're familiar with and you know it's there, you've got to be pretty damn stupid to fall in the ditch. Now, maybe he was in a completely different area and he doesn't go to that part of town very often. But still, it takes half a second to look up from your phone to see where you're walking. I mean, the game will literally vibrate every single time a Pokemon appears. You don't need to have your head buried in it. The only reason you need to have your head buried in the phone for even more than half a second, other than catching a Pokemon, is to get to a Pokestop. And when you see a Pokestop, you go on the phone and it will literally show you one. And a Pokestop will be about 100. Like, it will be 100 meters away from your location. So you're going to know exactly where it is. You're just essentially using Google Maps. And if you need Google Maps to get around your local town, you're a fucking moron. Moving on.
Blasting off at the speed of light. While we expected people to get fired from their jobs for playing too much Pokemon Go, we weren't expecting someone to get fired for not playing it. An Australian expatriate had recently relocated to Singapore in order to take a marketing job for 99.co, an online real estate portal. When he found out that Pokemon Go wasn't available to play in Singapore yet, he took to social media to vent his frustration publicly. Naturally, many native Singaporeans took issue with his language insulting their homeland and started arguing with him online. Instead of apologizing for his outburst, he doubled down, claiming that he was there for work because the locals, quote, can't even read and were only good at, quote, mouthing off.
BAM! Double down! BAM! Mouthing off! Lovely buzzwords. Okay, so a guy was an asshole, and he was a big dick, and he bad-mouthed people from Singapore. And he got sacked because they started a flame war. A classic thing that happens on the internet. And this guy was off on his own private time when he was on about this kind of thing. You know, he was having a stupid flame war, and he was being a bit of a, I don't even know if you could call it racism, discrimination, I guess, towards people from Singapore. Maybe it's racism, I don't know. It's minor. It's very, very minor. I don't want to get into that kind of topic. Anyways, so he was acting like a dickhead, and people were responding to him, and they were acting like a dickhead as well, back to him. And then one smart aleck from the entire group decided to go to his manager and badmouth him and slander him and call him every name in the book to his manager, and the guy got sacked from it. Why? Because Pokemon Go wasn't in his area where he was living. Listen, buddy, that's not Singapore's fault that there was no Pokemon Go. That's Niantic's fault for not releasing the server yet. And they didn't release the server yet because chances are they're having enough issue already, because they've already released several statements saying they were not prepared for the kind of amount of people who are playing Pokemon Go at such an extreme level that people are doing. And they're only slowly starting to release servers to every single country and every single state and every single town, etc., etc. So, this guy was an impatient fucking dickhead who just got butthurt because he couldn't play Pokemon Go. He ruined his own life. He got sacked from his job because he was a dickhead who hadn't any patience. That's not Pokemon Go's fault. It's not Pokemon Go's fault that you fell in a ditch. It's your own fault for not looking where you're going. It's not Pokemon Go's fault that a woman found a dead body. If anything, it's a good thing. It's not Pokemon Go's fault that you're getting robbed. It's the scumbags who rob you. It's also not Pokemon Go's fault that your phone's getting hacked. It's scumbags making viruses and you not checking out what software you're downloading. Okay? Okay.
Oh no.
It didn't take long for the man's employer to find out about his offensive online behavior. 99.co apologized, and he found himself fired from his position the very same day, which leaves him plenty of time to catch them all. Job applications, that is.
Moving on.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch more videos like...
I wouldn't recommend subscribing. If this is the kind of shit they make, I wouldn't bother. Guys, I've been Generic Rarity. This has been Pokemon Go. It's a great game and you should get it, but take my advice. Try and look up, avoid Nazi museums and Holocaust museums if you can help it, because they might get a bit hurt. Make sure you're actually going to a church and not a guy's house. And be careful, because police officers will cry if you stay too long at their station. Okay. Oh, and if you find a dead body, say it was your dog and not Pokemon Go, because then your dog will get rewards and no one is going to give your phone a medallion. You know? Anyways, bye for now. See you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.